The moment Dr. Marcus Thompson walked into the VIP room at Children's Hospital, Victoria Pemberton's face twisted with disgust. "There's been a mistake," she announced loudly. "I didn't pay for premium care to have my daughter treated by someone who clearly doesn't belong here." She had no idea that the young black doctor she was dismissing had just flown in from Harvard Medical School to perform the most critical surgery of her child's life. Before starting the story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. The VIP wing of Boston Children's Hospital was designed to cater to the city's most affluent families, where private rooms came with marble bathrooms, gourmet meal service, and the guarantee that money could buy the finest medical care available. Victoria Pemberton had spared no expense when her 8-year-old daughter Emma was rushed to the emergency room that morning, her small body fighting a rare cardiac condition that had doctors scrambling to find solutions. Dr. Marcus Thompson had been in the middle of a groundbreaking research presentation at Harvard Medical School when his pager buzzed with the emergency code that meant a child's life hung in the balance. At 31, he was the youngest department head in the hospital's history, a pediatric cardiac surgeon whose innovative techniques had saved hundreds of children's lives and revolutionized treatment protocols worldwide. Marcus had canceled his presentation, grabbed his surgical kit, and raced across town to Children's Hospital, where he was told that an 8-year-old girl needed immediate intervention for a complex congenital heart defect that only a handful of surgeons in the world could successfully repair. He was one of 3. What Marcus didn't expect as he entered Emma Pemberton's private room was to be met with open hostility from the child's mother before he could even introduce himself. "There's been a mistake," Victoria announced loudly enough for nurses and other patients' families to hear. Her voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to getting her way through sheer force of wealth and social position. "I didn't pay for premium care to have my daughter treated by someone who clearly doesn't belong here." Victoria Pemberton, at 43, was the heir to Pemberton Pharmaceuticals, a company worth $8 billion that her grandfather had built and that she now ran with an iron fist. She was accustomed to having the best of everything, the best cars, the best houses, the best schools for her daughter, and certainly the best doctors that money could buy. The doctor standing before her didn't fit her image of medical excellence. He was young, black, and despite his obvious competence and the respect she could see in the nurse's eyes, he simply didn't match her expectations of what a top-tier physician should look like. "Mrs. Pemberton," Marcus said calmly, extending his hand in greeting. "I'm Dr. Marcus Thompson, Chief of Pediatric Cardiac Surgery. I'm here to evaluate Emma's condition and discuss treatment options." Victoria stared at his outstretched hand as if it might contaminate her. "Chief? That's impossible. You look like you just graduated medical school yesterday." "I did graduate recently," Marcus replied with patience that came from years of dealing with similar reactions. "From Harvard Medical School, where I also completed my residency and fellowship in pediatric cardiac surgery. I've been chief of this department for 2 years." "This is ridiculous," Victoria snapped, pulling out her phone. "I'm calling hospital administration. Emma needs a real doctor, not some diversity hire playing dress-up." From the hospital bed, 8-year-old Emma Pemberton watched the interaction with the sharp intelligence that often accompanies serious illness in children. Despite her weakened condition, she could sense the tension in the room and the unfairness in her mother's words. "Mommy," Emma said weakly, "he seems nice. And look, all the nurses like him." It was true. The nursing staff who had followed Dr. Thompson into the room clearly held him in high regard. Their body language spoke of professional respect and personal affection that couldn't be faked or mandated by hospital policy. "Emma, sweetheart, Mommy is going to make sure you get the best care possible," Victoria said, her voice softening only when addressing her daughter. "That means doctors who have the right experience and qualifications." Marcus had heard enough. "Mrs. Pemberton, perhaps we could discuss this outside while the nurses make Emma more comfortable." "There's nothing to discuss. I want you to leave immediately and send in the attending physician." "I am the attending physician," Marcus said quietly. "And right now, I'm the only person in this hospital qualified to perform the surgery your daughter needs to survive." The word survive hit Victoria like a physical blow. In her fury over what she perceived as inadequate medical staff, she had almost forgotten the severity of Emma's condition. "What do you mean, survive?" Marcus gestured toward the door. "Perhaps we should speak privately." Reluctantly, Victoria followed him into the hallway, leaving Emma with the nurses who were already working to make her more comfortable. "Mrs. Pemberton," Marcus began once they were outside Emma's room, "your daughter has a complex congenital heart defect called tetralogy of Fallot with pulmonary atresia. It's a rare condition that requires immediate surgical intervention. Then get someone qualified to do it." Marcus took a deep breath, reminding himself that this woman's prejudice came from a place of fear for her child. "Mrs. Pemberton, there are exactly 3 surgeons in the United States who specialize in this particular procedure. Dr. Elizabeth Chen at Stanford is currently in surgery and won't be available for 6 hours. Dr. Robert Williams at Johns Hopkins is in London at a conference. I am the 3rd, and I'm here now." Victoria stared at him, processing this information. "That's impossible. You're too young. I completed my first successful repair of this condition when I was 29. I've since performed 47 similar surgeries with a 96% success rate. Mrs. Pemberton, Emma doesn't have 6 hours to wait for Dr. Chen. Her oxygen saturation is dropping, and her heart is working too hard to compensate for the defect." "You're lying," Victoria said, but her voice had lost some of its earlier conviction. Marcus pulled out his phone and showed her a recent medical journal article. "This is from the New England Journal of Medicine, published last month. It details the innovative technique I developed for exactly Emma's condition. Would you like me to call Dr. Chen at Stanford? She'll confirm that I'm the surgeon she would recommend for this case." Victoria looked at the article, seeing Marcus's name as the lead author, seeing the impressive credentials and hospital affiliations listed beneath his photo. The evidence was overwhelming, but it challenged everything she had assumed about competence, qualifications, and what excellence looked like. I need to think about this." "Mrs. Pemberton, thinking time is a luxury Emma doesn't have. Every minute we delay increases the risk of permanent heart damage or worse." That's when Dr. Patricia Williamson, the hospital's chief medical officer, appeared in the hallway. Victoria immediately brightened, seeing an older white woman in a position of authority. "Dr. Williamson," Victoria called out, "thank goodness. I need to speak with you about getting a qualified surgeon for my daughter." Dr. Williamson looked puzzled. "Mrs. Pemberton, Dr. Thompson is the most qualified pediatric cardiac surgeon we have. He's actually overqualified for most cases. We're incredibly fortunate to have him on staff. But he's so young, and I just think Emma would be better served by someone with more traditional qualifications." Dr. Williamson's expression hardened as she understood what Victoria was really saying. "Mrs. Pemberton, are you refusing treatment from Dr. Thompson based on his race?" "Of course not," Victoria protested, though her face flushed red. "I just want the best for my daughter." "Then you want Dr. Thompson," Dr. Williamson said firmly. "He's published more research on pediatric cardiac surgery than surgeons twice his age. He's won the American Heart Association's Young Investigator Award 3 years running. Harvard tried to poach him from us twice, but he prefers working with children over conducting research." Victoria felt the ground shifting beneath her. Everything she thought she knew about medical expertise was being challenged by the reality standing in front of her. "Mrs. Pemberton," Marcus said gently, "I understand your concerns. No parent wants to entrust their child's life to someone they're not completely confident in. Would it help if I showed you the surgical plan and explained exactly what I'll be doing?" For the next 20 minutes, Marcus walked Victoria through Emma's condition with a patience and expertise that was undeniable. He used 3-dimensional models to show her exactly what was wrong with Emma's heart, explained the surgical procedure in terms she could understand, and answered every question with thoroughness and compassion. Despite herself, Victoria found her prejudices crumbling in the face of Marcus's obvious competence and genuine care for Emma's well-being. "Dr. Thompson," she said finally, "I owe you an apology. I made assumptions that were unfair and wrong." Marcus nodded graciously. What matters now is Emma. Are you comfortable with me performing the surgery? Victoria looked through the window at her daughter, who was growing weaker by the hour. Yes. But Dr. Thompson, I need you to know that if anything happens to her. Mrs. Pemberton, I have a daughter too. She's 6 years old. I understand exactly how you feel, and I promise you that I will treat Emma as if she were my own child. The surgery took 4.5 hours. Marcus worked with the precision and artistry that had made him famous in medical circles, repairing Emma's heart with innovative techniques that minimized trauma while maximizing long-term function. Victoria spent those 4.5 hours in the waiting room, pacing, praying, and thinking about her behavior earlier that day. Other families in the waiting area had shared stories about Dr. Thompson, how he had saved their children, how he never gave up, how he treated every patient with dignity, regardless of their family's ability to pay. He operated on my son for free, one mother told Victoria. We didn't have insurance, and he said no child should suffer because of finances. My boy is playing soccer now because of Dr. Thompson. When Marcus finally emerged from the operating room, still in his surgical scrubs, Victoria rushed to meet him. How is she? Marcus smiled for the first time that day. The surgery was successful. Emma's heart is functioning normally and her prognosis is excellent. She'll need follow-up care, but she should be able to live a completely normal life. Victoria felt her knees go weak with relief. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you so much. She's going to recovery now. You can see her in about an hour. As Marcus turned to leave, Victoria called after him. Dr. Thompson, wait. He turned back and Victoria saw the exhaustion in his eyes from the intense surgery he had just completed. I need to apologize again. More completely this time. What I said to you earlier was racist and wrong. You saved my daughter's life, and I almost prevented that from happening because of my own ignorance and prejudice. Marcus studied her face, seeing genuine remorse. Mrs. Pemberton, what matters is that we're both committed to Emma's well-being. That's what I'll remember about today. But I'll remember how I behaved, and I want to do something about it. 3 months later, Victoria Pemberton announced the creation of the Dr. Marcus Thompson Fellowship Fund, a $10 million endowment that would provide scholarships for underrepresented minorities pursuing careers in pediatric medicine. I learned something important about my own prejudices, Victoria said at the announcement ceremony. I almost denied my daughter the best possible care because the doctor didn't look like what I expected excellence to look like. Dr. Thompson saved Emma's life despite my behavior, not because of it. The Fellowship Fund became one of the most successful medical scholarship programs in the country, helping dozens of brilliant young doctors pursue careers in pediatric medicine. Dr. Marcus Thompson was promoted to Chief of Pediatric Surgery for the entire hospital system, but he never forgot the lesson of that day either. He began speaking regularly about bias in healthcare, helping other medical professionals recognize how their assumptions could affect patient care. The most dangerous bias in medicine, he would tell audiences, is the assumption that competence comes in only one color, one gender, one age, or one background. When we let those biases influence our judgment, we don't just harm individuals, we deprive our patients of the best possible care. Emma Pemberton grew up to become a strong advocate for healthcare equity. At 18, she spoke at medical schools about her experience as a patient whose life was saved by a doctor her mother initially rejected. I was 8 years old, and I could see that my mom was treating Dr. Thompson differently than she treated other people, Emma would tell audiences. Even as a sick child, I knew it was wrong. But Dr. Thompson saved my life anyway, and he taught my family something more valuable than any medical procedure, that judging people by their appearance instead of their character and competence doesn't just hurt them, it hurts you too. Victoria's transformation was complete, but not immediate. It took months of reflection, education, and honest self-examination to understand the depth of her prejudices and their potential consequences. I could have lost my daughter because I was too arrogant to see past my own biases, Victoria reflected years later. The best doctor for Emma was standing right in front of me, but I almost sent him away because he didn't look like what I thought a great doctor should look like." The story of Dr. Thompson and Emma Pemberton became a case study in medical schools across the country, illustrating how unconscious bias could literally be a matter of life and death. Dr. Patricia Williamson, who had witnessed the initial confrontation, used the incident to implement bias training for all hospital staff and patients' families. "We realized that bias doesn't just affect hiring and promotion," Dr. Williamson explained. "It can affect patient care when families refuse treatment from qualified physicians based on prejudice. We now have protocols to address these situations before they become medical emergencies." 5 years after Emma's surgery, Marcus received an unexpected call from Victoria. "Dr. Thompson, I wanted you to know that Emma just started college. She's pre-med, and she says she wants to be a pediatric cardiac surgeon like you." Marcus smiled. "She'll make an excellent doctor. She's already shown she has a strong sense of justice and fairness." "She learned that from you," Victoria said, "from watching how you treated us with kindness even when we didn't deserve it." "Everyone deserves compassion, Mrs. Pemberton, especially when they're scared for their child." Emma did indeed become a doctor, graduating from Harvard Medical School, the same institution where her surgeon had trained. Her mother attended the graduation ceremony, sitting next to Dr. Thompson and his family. "I'm proud of Emma," Marcus said as they watched the new doctors take their oath. "But I'm also proud of you. It takes courage to confront your own biases and change." Victoria nodded. "Emma's going to be a better doctor because she learned early that healing isn't just about medical knowledge. It's about seeing every patient as a human being deserving of the best care possible, regardless of what their family looks like or how they behave." The fellowship fund that Victoria had established continued to grow, eventually funding the medical education of over 200 young doctors from underrepresented communities. Many of them went on to serve in underserved communities, bringing excellent medical care to populations that had previously been neglected. The ripple effects of bias and of overcoming bias can last for generations, Victoria would say when speaking about healthcare equity. "One moment of prejudice almost cost my daughter her life, but choosing to confront and change that prejudice has helped save hundreds of other lives." Dr. Marcus Thompson continued his groundbreaking work in pediatric cardiac surgery, but he never forgot the lesson that Victoria Pemberton had inadvertently taught him. That excellence in medicine means not just having the technical skills to save lives, but having the character to save them, regardless of how patients and families treat you. The Hippocratic Oath says, "First, do no harm," Marcus would tell his medical students, "but I would add, always do good, even when others don't recognize your right to do so." Because at the end of the day, our job isn't to prove we belong. It's to heal, to save lives, and to serve with dignity regardless of whether that dignity is returned. The story of Emma's surgery became a powerful reminder that in matters of life and death, prejudice is not just morally wrong, it's potentially fatal, and that sometimes the person you're quickest to dismiss might be the exact person you need most. If this story touched your heart, remember that expertise, compassion, and competence come in many forms and from many backgrounds. The next time you encounter a professional whose appearance challenges your expectations, take a moment to look beyond the surface. Judge them by their knowledge, their dedication, and their character, not by whether they fit your preconceived notions of what success should look like. In healthcare, as in all fields, the best practitioners are often those who combine technical excellence with the empathy that comes from understanding what it feels like to be underestimated. And sometimes, the person whose life they save might be the same person who initially refused to let them try. True healing, whether medical, emotional, or social, begins when we choose to see each other as human beings first, professionals second, and stereotypes never. Because in the end, what matters isn't what someone looks like. It's what they can do, how they treat others, and whether they have the skills and compassion to help when help is needed most. Thank you very much for listening. Please let us know what you think of this story in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any other videos.